All right, Nick Saban hit the podium on Wednesday at Hoover, Alabama for the SEC Media Days 2015, and we go to our man to break it down right there on the scene, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Stephen, of course, we thank you for your time and look forward to this conversation. And before we dive into the football, we know that you dove into the cuisine, so you have to give us a breakdown before the X's and O's on the spread there for lunch.
I have to give it A+, Mark. A+ spread. Walk in the salad bar, nicely made. 5-cheese macaroni. Great 5-cheese macaroni. Somebody really took their time to season it well. Fried chicken was very much so on point. It tastes a lot better than Church's. It tastes a lot better than KFC. Let me just tell you that. Fried chicken was good. Nice pork steak. Ribs were great. Even the sweet tea, there was something special about the sweet tea. It was actually pretty good. They had lemon meringue pie for dessert. That was it had some pop to it. So the cuisine was good. I feel like they really took their time to craft around Alabama Day, because when Saban rolls in, the red carpet has to come out somewhere. And this season it came out where the food is concerned, because the macaroni was outstanding. The collard greens, well proportioned. A1 job by the Winfrey Hotel.
Yeah, I'm a chocoholic, but if I can't get the chocolate, the lemon meringue pie is difficult to top. Love the lemon meringue pie. So that tops off dinner, and then everybody's nodding off to sleep for the second half of the day, except for you. You got plenty of energy to go around, so even after stuffing yourself, we count on you to deliver. So we're going to dive right into the football. I'm looking at what Saban had to say today. I watched the entire deal. He talked about a quiet summer. His daughter got married. He didn't have too many issues to deal with off the field, so it was nice to get through a quiet summer for Mr. Saban.
It was very nice, especially when your focus is on recruiting, your focus is on bringing talent into the system, as well as continuing to mold and develop the players and the guys that are already there. Of course, he mentioned the wedding of his daughter, Kristen Saban, Saban gaining a son-in-law. And there were times where Saban's son-in-law would be asked, why didn't you ask for Kristen's hand in marriage sooner? And so the son-in-law would reply, do you see how intense he is? This is Nick Saban. And so Saban would always be asked, do you consider yourself as being intense? And Saban says, I've been the same guy I've always been since I was at West Virginia. And we're thinking, no, you are the king of the state of Alabama, Nick Saban. When people mention your name, I don't care if you're 6 feet or you're 5'2". You're Nick Saban. And people get kind of flustered when trying to approach you or trying to engage you in conversation. But a very quiet, a very productive summer where Alabama is concerned in recruiting and personal values for Coach Saban. And also, finding leaders on this year's team. Saban's talked about how Jake Coker has really put on an encouraging summer practice thus far. He's been working with quarterback coach David Morris all offseason on being accurate with the football, stepping into the throws, anticipating his passes on the field, and just processing everything mentally. So having Jake Coker putting in that work, very, very good sign. Kenyon Drake's put on a little bit more weight. He's now 215 to 220 pounds. He's bulked up a little bit more muscle-wise. The offensive line continuing to bond on being able to read cues in run blocking as well as pass protection. So it's been a mixture of a quiet summer, but still busy with recruiting and trying to develop, a leadership and a buy-in mentality on this team.
I think it's been way overblown by the national media how the last 2 seasons have ended. Yes, Alabama plays for SEC first and national championship second. That's why they play, and if that's not accomplished, it's a disappointment. Still, this team 2 seasons ago, 1 play away from playing for a national championship. Yes, they should have shown up at the Sugar Bowl, but had they defeated Auburn, I think a different Alabama team would have shown up for a BCS championship game against Florida State. Last season, they played an incredible Ohio State team. I believe that those were the two best football teams in the country playing that night in New Orleans. It was a one-score game. Ohio State outplayed them, but still a one-score game. They don't get it done. But still, we're talking about one or two possessions away from possibly playing for two national championships the last 2 years. I think that's been way overblown, that Alabama's fallen. They've been right there. Still, Coach Saban, he meets these questions with patience, and he takes it, and he delivers. That we just have to finish. We got to complete the season. That's what we're talking about this summer.
You have to complete the season, and Coach Saban understands that. He understands, his job of getting these guys motivated to do your role, play it the right way, and with the right motive. And I feel like a lot of sports writers and outsiders looking in love to nitpick because it's Alabama, because of the success that Saban's had, entering his 9th season in the program, and you expect to win. When you deliver a fan base championships, when outsiders looking in perceive you as a winner, they're going to expect you to win every game. And when you lose, they nitpick. They nitpick at the finest, smallest, simplest matter to the big, huge matter. I mean, did you see the two Ohio State fans with Auburn shirts on at Alabama's media day? I mean, that was just absolutely crazy. But the outsiders, they nitpick because they want to see how does Saban respond when a situation is not, in favor of Alabama. I feel like this team has a great chance to finish the deal in 2015 because it's getting the mindset of we got to have our best game each and every time on the field. We can't afford to take shortcuts. We can't afford to half step. We got to go out there full throttle, fundamentally sound, and execute what we have to do.
Okay, Stephen M., one more response to what was said at the podium, then we're going to talk about what wasn't talked about. So the NFL draft grade process occurs between the regular season and the bowl games. Alabama with a number of eligible juniors who were testing the waters at that point. Saban alluded to that in regards to possibly not being the best, and not just for his team, but for any team that's loaded with NFL prospects, not being the best situation when you have kids trying to prepare for the most important game of the season, plus they're looking at their future and whether they should make what's to date the most important decision that they have to make in their young lives. So just your thoughts about whether Saban, a lot of people think that it was sour grapes, disclaiming the Ohio State loss based on this, and others think not necessarily a big deal.
Well, starting off first, Mark, you want to take everything one step at a time. You want to come into a game, whether it's a championship caliber game like Ohio State was last year for Alabama, or just a plain regular season game. You want to focus everything one step at a time. But I can see where Saban's coming from, because if you look at these players, these 20, 21-year-olds that are juniors and seniors, especially if they come from an economic background that was not so fitting, a home background that was not so fitting, even if you come from a decent home and a decent economical background, what's in the back of these players' minds is, if I'm viewed as a concrete, I'm not talking about shaky, wavery. If I'm being viewed as a concrete, solid first, second, sometimes even third round pick, the back of my mind is, I'm thinking about my mom, getting her somewhere, getting her a house, her a car. I'm thinking about my father. I'm thinking about the family members as well as myself that have been in my life. Not just people that say, oh, I'll be there for you, and never there. I'm talking about the ones that have been there for you since day one. In the back of your mind, when you get that NFL draft grade and you see yourself as a concrete pick, you're thinking about the best possible professional case scenario of, if I play full throttle, and if I play full throttle in the postseason games, though I want to go out for my team, for my collegiate program, you're thinking about, if I get hurt, is my stock the same? If I get hurt, will I be able to recover in time to get to where I want to go? Versus if I play it safe, though I may not give my all to the team, I will still have pretty much a spot secured where my pick is concerned in the draft. So I can see what Saban is talking about, where the distraction of a lot of these players, they don't see all of that money at one time growing up, Mark. You got a lot of these players that come from very, very economic disadvantaged backgrounds. So like I said, even if it's a decent one, you still don't see all that money that these contracts nowadays in the National Football League are putting out to these rookie players. So I understand what Saban's saying from that aspect, moving back to keep the players focused every step at a time. But I can also kind of see what the fans are saying. If you're a college football team, and if you are a premier college football team playing in one of the biggest games, or even playing in just a regular game, your focus should be on that game. Yes, there are external factors. Yes, there are distractions. But if you are a fundamentally sound team and you're coached that way, you should still be able to go out there, execute, and do your job. I understand what Saban was mentioning where the NFL draft grades are concerned, but it's a mixture of the two.
So, yeah, the injury factor is most important. That aside, let's say in a hypothetical that these kids were guaranteed of not being hurt, which is ridiculous, but even just allowing these kids as 20 and 21-year-olds just to kind of compartmentalize their life and deal with one difficult situation and challenging situation at a time. Let's not forget, these are student athletes, and yes, some of them kind of blow off school, but there are some legitimate student athletes there that are dealing with their finals at the same time that they're trying to prepare for the biggest game of the season. Can we just give them – the NFL draft is not until the end of April, the first couple of days of May. Can we give them some time to complete their schooling for the semester and play the biggest game of the year and complete the football season, and then bombard them with all this information about the NFL draft? It's not such a difficult thing to ask. And I think Saban's right on par, regardless of his motivation. He's exactly right that the process is expedited too much, needs to be delayed a little bit later. All right, Stephen M., you were there, and we know from being around the media for a long time, being members of the media for a long time, I don't want to mention to people when I was at SEC Media Days for 7 straight years because it goes back a ways, gives away my age, that there are the guys that show up and ask legitimate questions or ask questions at all. Then there's guys that just like to hang around and listen to what everybody else asks. You come and you come ready, you come loaded, and you fire away. And it's a good thing a lot of the time, because even with all the questions that you asked, we still didn't hear anything about Alabama's sore spot in the secondary and why it's going to be better this year. We didn't hear anything about replacing Amari Cooper, the best wide receiver in college football, and the second and third options at wide receiver last year. So the 3 top receiving threats gone, and how is the development of the wide receivers and the depth at running back. So those weren't asked. Maybe you can shed some light on those positions.
I'll be happy to, and I guess the first one would be the defensive back one that I will shed some light on. Mel Tucker is a proven guy. His track record, his resume is outstanding. He has ties to Nick Saban that start at Michigan State. Mel Tucker was a part of Saban's staff with the Spartans from 1995 to 97. As a graduate assistant, he followed Saban to Louisiana State University and was a part of that LSU staff in 2000 as a defensive backs coach. Goes to Ohio State in 2001 to 2004 as a defensive backs coach and co-defensive coordinator on Jim Tressel's staff. Was a part of the national championship team in 2002. Put 6 Ohio State defensive backs in the NFL draft. Tucker goes to the National Football League and has some great stints with the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. A sour grape was provided in his attempt with the Chicago Bears, but that's the only mulligan of the bunch. So he comes back to college football at age 43, hired at Alabama, and has really done a phenomenal job in the spring of taking this group back to basics with form tackling, with being physical, with playing the football, with knowing where you are when that ball's in the air. And that's the most important thing with this Alabama secondary this year is be fundamentally sound, play physical, but also when that ball's in the air, know where you are on the field. Be firm in where you are with your speed, with your angles, with your coverage, and where you are on that field when that ball is being thrown. And Tucker's done a great job of that. That question wasn't addressed. Alabama does return Cyrus Jones and Geno Smith, two seniors. Cyrus Jones, a corner, Geno Smith, a safety, and those two guys will have to guide the other players in this defensive backfield in the secondary this season. Tony Brown, a sophomore, Marlon Humphrey, a sophomore, two former five-star recruits are going to get a lot of playing time, more so Tony Brown than Marlon Humphrey, because Tony Brown is going to be on that island as a corner opposite Cyrus Jones. Marlon Humphrey will play more in that slot role, but Mel Tucker is a proven guy, and I feel like this season he's going to have a good chance of really showing how much Alabama's secondary has taken a step forward. The next question that wasn't addressed, as you mentioned, Mark, the receiver position, you can't replace the value and production and experience of Amari Cooper, Christian Jones, and DeAndre White. Let's be honest, you can't. But Alabama lives by next man step up. And the two guys on this team that really emerged in spring practice were Robert Foster and Ardarius Stewart. Robert Foster, 6'2", 194 pounds from Monica, Pennsylvania. Ardarius Stewart, 6'1", roughly around 190, 200 pounds from Fultondale, Alabama. Both guys put in a strong spring game performance. Robert Foster, 8 catches, 125 yards. Ardarius Stewart, 6 catches, 118 yards with 2 touchdowns. But both guys, speed, athletic ability, both guys can high point the football, and Robert Foster can stretch the field. He can be that vertical deep threat receiver. And an interesting tidbit, Mark, that nobody really catches. You go back to 2012 when Amari Cooper came in. He played sparingly until the Ole Miss game. 2012 was supposed to be DeAndre White's year. He was poised for a breakout season. DeAndre White goes down to a knee injury in 2012 against Ole Miss. Amari Cooper gets inserted, and boom, 8 catches, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns, does not look back, ends his freshman year, 59 catches, 1,000 yards with 11 touchdowns. It took an injury to kind of propel Amari Cooper. Robert Foster in the same exact situation. Cam Sims, the 6'5", 209-pound receiver from Louisiana, was tabbed as Amari Cooper's heir apparent. He goes down with the knee injury, ACL in spring ball. Here's Robert Foster has a chance to take an opportunity to up his game and propel himself as the primary go-to target. So that issue wasn't addressed, but Ardarius Stewart, Robert Foster, 2 guys that you can expect also throw Chris Black, the redshirt junior, into the mix. And then finally, Alabama's depth at running back behind Derrick Henry, behind Kenyon Drake. It's going to be freshman step up. And by freshman, I'm talking Damien Harris, the 5-star out of Beret, Kentucky. He's going to have to be thrown into the frying pan a little bit earlier than what he had originally thought. But he's going to have to step up along with redshirt sophomore Ronnie Clark, and also when Bo Scarborough returns, which is most likely as of right now between mid to late September. When he returns, he will as well get some carries and be involved. But as of right now, behind Drake and behind Henry, it's freshman step up. It's going to be who who is Alabama going to want to develop, and it's going to be Damien Harris and Ronnie Clark.
Our man Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. And before we let you go, Stephen, as that star continues to ascend, I want you to make us a promise. I'm going to put this on record that you're not going to get too big to come on Mark Rogers TV, because that social media is a buzz, and you're improving your clout quite a bit there at SEC Media Days.
Mark, you have a special place in my heart, man. Guys like you and Chad Neepling, we go way back, so it would be ignorant on my behalf to not have a show with you guys. It would be very – I would give you all permission to slap me in the face if I get to the point where I do not come on a show with either of you guys, man. You guys mean a lot to me.
That is tremendous. Stephen M. Smith, if you haven't caught him on Twitter, please sign up for Twitter. And if you're on Twitter, look up ESPN_future, because Stephen M. Smith has been lighting up the social media buzz with his work down at SEC Media Days, which he's working hard, grinding all year round. Stephen M., we'll catch you soon, talking some more SEC, talking some more Alabama.
No problem, Mark. Thank you for having me on today.